Perhaps no star player has been linked to more trade rumors over the last few years than Bradley Beal. Yet, time and again, the end result is Beal recommitting to the Wizards. That trend continued this summer, with Beal signing a new 5-year contract with Washington worth just over $251 million, the maximum allowable contract, non-supermax division, for a player with at least 10 years of NBA service time. And it seems money, like love, can make you say some ridiculous things. The truth is that Beal and the Wizards missed their chance for a mutually beneficial separation. They're stuck together now, and neither party should be happy about it. In fairness to Beal, he obviously should be ecstatic about the bag he just secured. By remaining with the woeful Wizards as long as he has, Beal made it obvious where his priorities lie, and that's his pockets, which is completely understandable. There's nothing wrong with a pro athlete facing a limited window to maximize their earnings potential doing just that. If Beal's goal was simply to cash in as much as possible, wins and losses be damned, then he's been more successful in his endeavors than many championship-chasing stars are in theirs. By the time his new deal expires in 2027, Beal will have earned roughly $430 million in NBA contracts alone. Not bad for a 3-time All-Star and 1-time All-NBA selection who's never been the best player on even a 40-win team.
Finesse is my middle name.
That lack of team success obviously isn't all on Beal. The Wizards have been defined by mediocrity for far longer than he's been around. Washington hasn't reached the conference finals or even recorded a 50-win season since winning the NBA championship in 1979. Whether it was Gilbert Arenas in the 2000s, John Wall in the 2010s, or Beal now, the Wizards have either failed to surround their star players with adequate supporting casts, or have too staunchly hitched their wagons to flawed stars who were never good enough to carry Washington to contention. In that sense, Beal is almost the perfect Wizard. He's only a year removed from averaging 30-plus points per game in 2 consecutive seasons, and he can still get back to all-star production on the offensive end. But he's coming off a down year in 2021-2022, he hasn't played defense in at least 3 years, and Washington has never been a winning team with Beal as its best player. Beal saying he wants to win a championship is at best naive and at worst dishonest. Look, there's nothing wrong with wanting to earn as much as possible while also not having to uproot your family. In fact, the average person can probably relate to that. By all means, get your money and stay comfortable in the only NBA home you've ever known. Just be upfront about it. And if Beal actually believes he can win in Washington, well, then he's just blind. Which, then again, if you've watched him play defense recently...
You see what I did there?
Denny Avdia, Rui Hachimura, and Daniel Gafford are fine young players, while Will Barton, Monte Morris, and DeLon Wright join Kyle Kuzma to make up a solid stable of role players. But with Beal and Kristaps Porzingis leading that team, the Wizards are at best a play-in squad. Sure, the defensively improved Wizards should compete most nights, but this revamped team ultimately looks destined to meet Washington's usual depressing fate. Too competitive to tank, nowhere near good enough to contend for anything of significance. With Porzingis holding a 2023-24 player option worth more than $36 million, it's quite possible the Wizards won't have much flexibility next summer either. And they still owe the Knicks a protected first-round draft pick at some point over the next 4 years. Assuming another couple years of relative irrelevance in DC, and given that the Wizards have never been a free agent destination, there's also little hope for Wizards fans who may be looking at a cleaner cap sheet a couple years from now. The team's best bet might be if they completely fall flat, get some lottery luck, and finally end up with a franchise-changing star in the draft. But then the problem becomes timelines. 29-year-old Beal and any youngster drafted in 2023 or beyond won't be on the same one. Now, often when a player and team in this scenario ink a new deal, it doesn't take much to imagine said player hitting the trade market at some point in their new contract. Not this time though. For one, Beal's unlikely to become more tradable or attractive as a trade asset as he heads into his 30s with hundreds of millions of dollars still owed to him. Secondly, the Wizards gave him a full no-trade clause, something only 9 other players in history have earned.
They did what?
That no-trade clause means even if Beal does want out at some point, he can completely steer trade negotiations towards only teams of his choosing. The Wizards would be dealing a likely diminishing asset while holding little leverage. That's not exactly a formula that leads to a team finding the best return for a franchise star. Had Washington swallowed its pride and abandoned its pursuit of a few home playoff games, the team could have traded Beal for a future-minded package at any point over the last couple of years. And if Beal wanted to win as badly as he claims he does, he could have pushed his way out at some point, then signed this same deal with whichever team acquired his bird rights. Of course, Beal likely knew all along that few, if any, teams would be willing to commit $250 million to a one-time All-NBAer. Just like the Wizards knew few players of Beal's caliber would ever be willing to commit to them as long as Beal has continued to. It really is a perfectly flawed marriage that both player and team have ensured will continue, as Beal and the Wizards can't escape each other now. No one really wins, but as usual, Wizards fans lose.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.